Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Monday, December 22nd, 2025. And the first order of business is, and I don't know if she's on yet, but my middle sister, as some of the old folks call the knee baby. It's her birthday today. And Nakia, well, I'm not going to tell her age, but it's her birthday today. So we're in Advent week. We're in a lot of Boston Poly week this week. But do me a favor before we get started today. Just wish Nikki, a happy birthday for me. Nakia, I love you. I'm so glad. Remember a few years ago, just around this time, we almost lost you. And so I'm glad that you're here and celebrating your birthday today. So please wish Nakia a happy birthday. Also, a couple of other things. Please keep Safari, my daughter in prayer. She is literally in a procedure right now, and we've been chatting back and forth over text over the weekend, but she's doing well. She's cracking jokes and being I almost said something, being a wise person, but keep her in your prayers as well. Listen, we have a limited amount of time this morning because our counselors are doing the business of the city. And we have Counselor Henry Santana, who will join us again after. It's her first appearance here in the Java Cafe. And I will set some context in reference to, we're getting to know her today, but to be very transparent, it's in the context of her declaration that she has the votes. Just very, very quickly, we've been aware of what goes on with the city council presidency for decades. And this was a very early declaration. There's another counselor that's kind of taken a different approach than what we're used to. And while my belief and philosophy around this is similar to a board, these counselors are going to elect their leader amongst themselves. However, because of some things this year, I think that there is an opportunity, and it happens, developers, other electeds, those with investments in different neighborhoods and whatnot, they've been calling and providing feedback to counselors about who they think should be president for decades. I think that this year there is an opportunity to understand that body elects. But this is a post that if anything happens to Mayor Wu, this person becomes the mayor. And I think in these times, there is a lot of validity for the community. We're going to talk a little bit about the process and some things. So I want to hurry up so I can give her the most time. I am honored to present to some and introduce to others. And technically, she is the Honorable City Councilor, Gabriela Coletta Zapata. I got that right because I've been messing up when I first started mentioning that you were coming on. How are you?
I'm doing well. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Just want to say happy birthday to Nikki and thinking of your goddaughter too, wishing her a speedy recovery.
I definitely appreciate that. She's probably going to get me for even mentioning it, but I definitely appreciate that. And so, Counselor, let's jump right in because Counselor Santana is going to join us shortly. And I kind of hate that this is so quick because this is your first time, and we are giving folks a glimpse of who you are. And as I said, there's some influence here around the city council presidency. So we'll get into that in a few minutes. But the first thing I would like to ask you to do is greet the folks, say good morning. We're going to jump in on about 30 seconds of some things, and then we're going to jump into your experience, your life story. Who is, with all due respect, Gigi? And then we'll talk about the city council presidency and your work and things like that. So please greet the folks and say good morning.
Good morning, Java fam. So happy to be here with you. This is actually my second time on your show. I was on your show in the Haymarket, and I think you and I were working at the New England Aquarium when I was doing waterfront equity work. So just really excited to be here and really excited to introduce myself to everybody who didn't get a chance to know who I am over the last couple of years. I'm really excited to introduce, who I am and my values, but also my heart. And I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. One of the things, Council, I'm going to do similar to what I do with the mayor and others. There is some controversy out there during a special election when you ran. When you run for office or public figure, people go into your social media, and there were some things that you posted some years ago that you needed to take accountability for. And I just wanted to allow you some time to address that, because in this post with second in line of being the mayor, and you and I have talked, this is something that in these times, it is something that I think the public who does not know you yet can hear quickly what happened, what you've done, and how that's translated into your policies. And then we'll go on from there and continue to talk about policy and other work.
Sure, and thank you for bringing this up. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. I think first, I do want to introduce myself a little bit, because it does provide context, again, of who I am. So I represent East Boston, Charlestown, the North End, and the Wharf District on the Boston City Council. I was raised by community advocates in East Boston, and so they were local journalists. My dad was the local editor of the newspaper, and my mom was a parent organizer.
Your dad was a journalist? That's not fair, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I know. He's not anymore. He totally retired, but they were often the ones in the back of the room being the thwart in the elected official side. And so it was completely normal for me to be running around civic association meetings, neighborhood events. My mom even took me to protests against airport runway expansion. And she was the one really demanding better from those in power. And so that was a demonstration of my parents, first of all, deeply believing that government should be challenged, but also that it should work for the people. And so I credit them truly, especially my mother, who let me have it, especially when I was going down some dark roads in my life. But my mother demonstrated the strength of the East Boston community and just of Boston in general, because she was an affordable housing advocate, but that the strength comes from all of us working together. And so I had a wonderful upbringing. I was always rooted in community, and that is a through line in my work. And everything that I've done to advance equity in my career. And so I do, again, just appreciate you bringing up this topic. And I don't believe in dodging difficult conversations, but when this first came to light in 2022, I spoke broadly about it then, and I publicly apologized. And I took and still take full responsibility for those words. I've never tried to excuse them, and I won't now. And I'll be the first person to admit that that young person was uneducated, immature, and insanely ignorant in those years. And it took me years to unlearn and understand how best to be an ally and a champion for social, racial, and economic justice. And in that evolution, I took a complete 180 and decided to go down the path of my parents and decide to fully commit to progressive causes, so much so that I made it my career. And while harm was not the intention, it doesn't erase the harm. And I can't undo what I said or did as a teenager. But what I can do is own it. I can learn from it, and I can commit myself to doing better every single day. And look, it should be said, the 33-year-old woman that is talking to you today, who I am, pregnant, about to have a baby in a multiracial and multi-ethnic family, I would not be where I am today without the guidance and the mentorship of my parents and my community. It was really my mom and my mentors that pulled me back. And this is something that I have tried to replicate in my time as counselor. And what I've learned and conveyed time and time again to young people that I love, I've gone to their graduations, their basketball games, I've worked closely with them. I've taught them that using my story, that words carry power and they have a lasting legacy. And so what I've told people I've come to mentor across the district is, number one, do no harm. However, if you do make a mistake, take ownership and apologize. And what matters next is what happens after the harm is done. So whether someone chooses to listen, to grow, and to change like I did, is important. And again, I've dedicated my entire life trying to turn that lesson into an action by consistently showing up, standing with communities who have historically been excluded or harmed. And so to bring it back all to your original question, I'm not proud of that particular chapter, but I am extremely proud of the work I've done since. I've evolved, I've listened, and more importantly, I've tried to model this kind of growth that we should expect from people in public service. I don't think that we should see growth as a liability, but as a requirement of our leaders to showcase that they can admit that they were wrong, have difficult conversations and commit to doing better. And if I am lucky to be city council president, I'm here not just to serve District 1 anymore, but the entire city.
Okay, Councilor, stop, because you're jumping into my
Sorry.
question. You're good.
Thank you.
So in these times, and Councilor, we talked about this, offline, and I'm a twofer, in the respect of being a Black man and part of the LGBTQIA2S plus community. I appreciate the realness and owning it. Naming that you're now part of the construction of a multiracial ethnic family. That is definitely real. And so now let's get into, you've done that work in the background and you've done some of it publicly. How is that translated into policies? And a little bit, and you jumped, I was going to wait for the presidency because last two texts I got, are you going to ask her about the presidency?
Yeah.
How has that translated into your policies? And also, how does being a Eastie Charlestown a product of there from that neighborhood, or how as president will you oversee the needs of the entire city? With some context, if you don't mind, that, well, I'll save that for after, but how has that shadow work in some public translated into policies? And if you can name for me one policy that was the most radical for some, you probably got a lot of pushback from some of the old school folks in your districts.
100%.
In the district, what was that biggest policy? And then if you could go back, what is a policy that you might go back and say, I voted yay or nay, and that might not have been a good demonstration of my commitment to equity? So one for equity, one where you might have wanted to backtrack, please.
Yeah, this is a great question. I can certainly think of many instances where I had taken votes and there were a lot of old school people in my district that maybe had said, I'm sorry, I did not think that you would take that vote. I think namely rent stabilization, voting for that and trying to carry on the legacy of Jim Brooks and all the advocates at Reclaim Roxbury and City Light Viva Urbana. That was certainly one that I can think of. But look, I think the overall, again, through line of my experience in policy work has been deeply rooted in equity and deeply hands-on and grounded in evidence. And I can understand why people want to look closely at this. I think for me, the clearest evidence of who I am is the work that I've done and continue to do. And so it hasn't just been lived out in policy, but it's been lived out in decisions and relationships. So first of all, early on in my career, I quit my job to elect, and still only, the first African-American woman to represent District 1, Lydia Edwards. I then served as her chief of staff for 4 years. And in that role— I
just have to say, she'll kill me. Shout out to Councilor Edwards, because we're saying her name and I don't say hello. I'm going to Councilor Edwards.
State Senator Edwards now.
See, I'm old.
State Senator Edwards.
Lydia Edwards, yes.
Yeah, and she was an incredible mentor, and she took a chance on me. And so I used that position to bring bridges together, both old and new District 1 and old and new Boston, and put resources where they matter most. And centered those, like our Congresswoman says, those closest to the pain, closest to the power. And this was largely centered around communities of color. In East Boston, we are a proud immigrant community. And so we invest deeply in expanding, for example, English as a second language program. This is something that I have done using my new budgetary authority in the council. We provided additional resources to the Immigrants Lead Boston program so we can continue to build a pipeline of leadership in the city. And this past year, seeing what we're seeing on the streets with people being kidnapped by ICE, Gestapo, basically, we strengthen legal aid for immigrant families so that they can have access even to have consultations when they try to adjudicate their case in a court. So there's many different things that I've done. I partnered with Superintendent Skipper to open East Boston's first ever multilingual high school. And then my very first ordinance, I can't forget this. My very first ordinance was named Jack's Law after my best friend and my North End liaison to make it easier for transgender residents to use their chosen names on city documents. It was a really undignified process where they had to use their dead name. And so we centered dignity and access and believe that should be standard in government. And so my commitment to equity really shows up in the priorities I lead with today. And so I fought to expand. Maybe we can talk about affordable home ownership and building generational wealth, being intentional about who has resources and capital to even build in the city, diversifying city contracts, but always asking the question, who gets to share in Boston's economic prosperity? Is it just for people in the Seaport, or is it truly open to families in Dock, in East Boston, in Roxbury, in Mattapan? And so I have a bunch of different priorities that I'd like to push forward, but it is always rooted and centered in equity.
I'm going to give you 30 seconds because you're not a candidate, but you're a candidate. And I always incorporate a little bit of speed round while folks are also getting to know you. So there's a lot going on here. One policy where you kind of went back to your team and said, hey, or you got one that could have been more equitable. I'm not talking about the people pushing back on you on an equitable vote, but what is one that you could have went back and said, hey, I'm hearing from my community, particularly Black and brown or women. What is one that you would have maybe switched your vote?
The one that comes to mind is, it wasn't necessarily a vote that I took that was yes or no because I support it, but I think the level of funding is something that was misaligned with what the advocates were calling for, and it has to do with participatory budgeting. I worked very hard as a staffer to move forward that charter amendment that allowed for city councilors to advocate and champion various causes out in the open in the city council budget process. And that included ensuring that a percentage of the budget would be owned by the people, because it is the people's budget. And what I supported at the time is, and what we have now is 2% of the budget, which is, almost close to, I forget exactly what department, but some advocates are calling for more. And that's something that I continue to work with them on, and think that we should be ramping up to the percentage that they're asking for.
Thank you for that. One of the other things that I want, and this is James, and I try to balance the unsolicited inboxes and texts and then what I'm seeing on social media. One of the things that came up was the brick vote. And there were a lot of people, I think even your colleague that's coming on next, he and I have conversed about that. If you were to, there's a lot to unpack there, so it may not be fair to ask for a yes or no. Would you have done a deeper thoughts on that vote on the brick?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts, and it's really nuanced. And
I got to give you 30 seconds though, Council.
Okay, so brick protects us from terrorist attack. It also protects the LGBTQ community, and has in the past, from a shooter. I think that this almost happened in Brighton. That's a demonstrated case. And so there is a role for it. Although my team and I went back and we tried to understand how to layer on accountability, further accountability onto the brick. We thought about bringing it into OPAT and how that might work with various legislative and regulatory frameworks. And so that work is ongoing. We had tried to work with CPCS and others, and folks, it seems like advocates want some sort of reform, but the reform that we were trying to provide, everybody wasn't on the same page with. And so that's work that continues and is ongoing.
All right. Thank you for that. That's one that was on my radar, and I've talked to Councilor Santana about this as well. And he just, hold on for 1 second. I just want to make sure that he has the link to be able to join us. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is, I'm just going to come straight out and ask, are you ready to be mayor? Yes or no?
I am ready to be mayor, but I'm happy to give you the exclusive here right now on Java with Jimmy that it is not in my sights to run for mayor. It would be an extraordinary case if Michelle were to leave. I think when what's his name, Marty, the mayor, left and Kim ascended, right? That she was acting mayor, but there's always going to be a special election that happens to have somebody be in that seat. But look, I am ready. I have had years. I think besides my colleague, Ed Flynn, I have the most experience working in the city council. I've spent my entire adult life preparing for this kind of leadership.
Let's clarify. Oh God, here's a journalist and me coming out. The most experience in city council, but with Ed, there are some folks with you that have been have more tenure than you prior to being a counselor, correct?
Totally. I mean, but I have served in the city council for 8 years. In every role that I've had, whether that's chief of staff, committee chair, counselor, I've shown and demonstrated that I can navigate complex dynamics, build trust, and keep people focused on outcomes. I've chaired the government operations committee, where the work isn't flashy, but it's foundational. We talk about accountability, process, transparency, and making sure that government actually functions. I've brought together multiple people. And the role of a city council president, yes, is to lead the body on Wednesdays and its various committee chairmanships and chairwomanships, but you really are a facilitator. You are there to humble yourself. It's truly a humble position, and uplift the work of your colleagues and bring them together and collaborate. And that's something that I'm going to try to emulate. And so this role isn't about ambition. It's about steadiness.
Okay, so what I heard from you was, because this came up when the ascension to Department of Labor and our first woman, Black mayor, ascended into that role, that there was this understanding that she wasn't going to run. You're saying that no matter what, and it is in the most extreme circumstances that either by some level of demise or incapacitation, or as there's been minimal little chatter that our mayor has some other aspirations. That is a really valid question. I think also, counselor, and this one, yes or no with 15 seconds, and we're going to go to some committee and stuff and whatnot, because that is a policy constituent impact. Would you be ready to go to DC? Yes or no? And what I mean by that is the mayor, a lot of people didn't rock with her, but she got a lot of praise from even haters in DC representation. And I think in these times, counselor, you understand why this is important. God forbid if anything happens or the mayor, midterm does something else. Are you ready to go to DC? 15 seconds of yes or no.
This would be extraordinary circumstances. But yes, I have stood with my communities in fighting back against what we're seeing, the abhorrent and disgusting attacks on our loved ones, our immigrant brothers and sisters, folks who have literally built communities from the ground up. I've stood with our LGBTQIA+ neighbors and passing legislation and standing in solidarity with them. I've stood with our workers. And so, in the 0.000002% that I have to go down to Washington, I am ready, and I look forward to that opportunity and that challenge. But for right now, I really am focused on being city councilor for District 1. And if I am so lucky, if I have the opportunity to hold that gavel as city council president, doing so in collaboration with my colleagues and uniting us and ensuring that residents feel heard, respected, and helped.
I have to share with you, and I try to do this, and I don't want to make light of what you're saying, but I also want to look at the comments as well, just to give you some feedback, because most importantly, it's the constituents that you want to hear from. I do appreciate the realness in that. And again, far-fetched circumstances, at worst or at best, if the mayor, does something midterm, but then there's, the other 2-year period. Real quickly, because Councilor Santana is in the background, I will say that you may know this guy, and Councilor Santana does also, but former state representative Carlos Enriquez let me know that they got a whole bunch of time because ain't nothing going on in the council. So I'm not going to infringe upon your time, but okay, very quickly. I said in the beginning, I've been around Boston politics a long time, and I'm going to just say this with this vernacular. Ain't nobody ever publicly declared that they got the votes, I don't think, before Thanksgiving. Somebody else did. Oh, no. Roofsy. Was it before Thanksgiving? Was it? Roofsy?
It was before Thanksgiving, and Michelle, November 14th, and Mike Ross, October 6th.
Okay, I feel my face getting red. I stand corrected.
I don't mean to correct you like this, but I went back and I checked.
It's fine, because accuracy of information is cool when you're there and you know. Okay, so Counselor, you and Councilor Mejia have taken the most radical approaches around this process. 2 minutes, if Councilor Santana, shake your head. He's sitting in the background, leaning in, listening. He said, okay, give me 2 minutes on this. why did you declare so early? And also, you don't get council. I know this, and let's just school the people. And we've talked about this. Tanya Anderson came in a couple of years ago. We talked about this. Committees are a big thing because they oversee policy and oversight and can ask the questions of the administration, and not just on Wednesdays. That's a whole nother Zoom in itself. Declaration, the process, and I'm going to ask, are you willing to name your other 6 votes?
And I appreciate this question. So I do want to provide some context first before I get into who's committed and who hasn't.
And you got 45 seconds.
I got 45 seconds. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well,
a minute and 30 seconds of or whatever. Just please quickly.
Of course. And I appreciate this question again coming up. I welcome the public conversation because it's an opportunity to bring folks in and maybe educate folks who have maybe hearing about this for the first time. So this is democracy in action. The city council is a small legislative body. There's 13 of us. The city charter is what dictates who elects and how they're elected. And what it says is that a councilor, when they secure a majority of support from their colleagues, that person becomes the next city council president at the January organizational vote. There is no separate election, and there's no formal declaration process outlined in the charter. And I think you said it earlier. I think the way in which people can view this is almost like a board choosing its chairperson. Colleagues are elected by their constituents because they've spent years building trust and relationships. Like this process doesn't just occur over a couple of weeks or months, it happens over a course of years. And so this process is the exact same when councilors have to go out to their districts and build the same trust and get their vote. So colleagues talk, relationship matters, trust matters. And when a majority is reached, that's communicated. It's not unique to this year. And it's certainly not nefarious. And so, in fact, if you look back at the last 25 years of Boston City Council history, this is exactly how the process has unfolded. In the past, people routinely announce in November and December that they secured the votes. And in recent years, that process has actually become more public. So there's been more press on this in the last decade with statements to the press or on social media emphasizing unity. And so when I said that I had the majority in November, I was following a long-standing and well-established precedent. Again, I'm excited about it. I'm excited that my colleagues support me and trust me to lead based on years of demonstrated partnership, collaboration, and hard work.
Okay. Counselor, in the back, one more minute. Committees, because come on, Counselor, do you know that there is some conversing and liaising and coming together that goes on around preference for committees, people's passion, and that part is real. There is a negotiation. I don't want to use the WD word. Wheeling and dealing. That is something. And again, I'll set some context like you, as I said before. Developers, other electeds, colleagues. In some cases, it was believed that my former boss had, influence over who was going to be the president because he wanted to make sure whoever, if anything happened to him, whoever replaced him would continue his agenda. This time, I think that the constituents, and you said that by charter you gave all the school, but the context around the impact of the public knowing a little more, as you said, the past couple of years, it's been more public. Those committee assignments, Counselor, how are you managing securing the vote and then also having a peer review as the city council president of your interpretation of these years? You only got one on there that you don't really have any familiarity with. How are you managing that based on what's best for the constituents?
I mean, I center that in every decision that I make. I mean, I'm having really difficult conversations, really and truly. And again, it should be said that there is no playbook for running for city council president or for announcing it. Every councilor navigates this slightly differently, and the charter leaves flexibility and intentionally around that. So I've tried my best to reach out to former city council presidents to understand what they've done, what happened, going all the way back to like the early 2000s to understand. And what am I doing? Should I be doing this differently? Am I doing anything wrong? And the answer is no, that this is the process. And a part of that is entertaining and getting from folks what their passions are, what they're interested in, and how we may be able to utilize their strengths in order to ultimately serve the residents of Boston. And so that is something that I am actively working with right now. Granted, obviously I'm not immune to or naive to what is happening from other parts of the city and other councilors and my colleagues. And I'm trying my best to still demonstrate to them that they can trust me, and that regardless of who votes for me for city council president, I want to work with them, because I think that everybody brings something unique and special and different. I think all of my colleagues are brilliant in their own individual ways. And how can we utilize that? Because we really have the strength in numbers, and where we are able to have true independence from this administration is when we get to 9+. And so that means that we all have to come together and work together in unity. And working to people's strength through the committee process is obviously a part of that.
Council, there was a lot to try to pack into here. My phone
I know. I'm happy to come back on.
Okay, let's plan that, and I don't want to get in trouble. Either way, because I believe an elected's commitment to the work is, and though we understand this is not a candidacy in a formal election, the biggest candidate's commitment to the work is if they will still do and have this passion and bring this energy if it doesn't work out for them. And so whether it does or doesn't, let's plan to talk somewhere after January 5th and check in. And I would love to have you come back and talk about the outcome of the presidency, because this my phone just blown up. I think that is it, Councilor. The graciousness of our city councilor, Henry Santana, we're going to bring him in, someone who you have known at least for 2 years. Well, I'm saying as a councilor, 2 years, and then now getting ready to go on 4 years. And so, Councilor Santana, if you could just, first of all, I'm just going to be real. How did Councilor Zapata do this?
Good morning. Good morning. How's everyone? Thank you, job with Jimmy. Great job, Gigi. I didn't even get what's your question?
No, I was asking, how'd she do? Now we got a little. You got a
1
little.
to 10.
She did great. She did great. Java, Jimmy, you always put people on the hot seat. No, you know, but you always, I think we come on here for real conversations, and people, the constituents want to know the real questions, right? And I think you always do a good job of that. And just trying to be always honest, upfront, and transparent with the residents. Gigi's someone that I've known for many years. I was a staffer for Kenzie Bach back in 2019, and that's when I first met Gigi. And she was a chief of staff for, as she mentioned, for former city councilor Lydia Edwards, and she was a great mentor to me. And she's been a great mentor to me now, as I'm finishing up my first term and gearing up for a second term. So, just proud of her, the work that she's done, the work that she does for District 1, and hoping to see that translate to the entire city if given this one to be our next city council president.
All right, so we're down to 5. All right, so Councilor, any response to Councilor Santana, and then we're going to go ahead and give him some time to chat with us as well.
Sorry, what was the question? I didn't get that.
Any response to Councilor Santana?
I think he's amazing and brilliant and incredible. I've gotten a chance to know him even when he was a staffer, and the heart and perspective that he brings as a kid that has also grown up in the city, as somebody who grew up in public housing, is Dominican and identifies as Black. His advocacy has been relentless, and he has been a champion for youth. And I sometimes get emotional when I see how what he's putting forward in terms of policy and programming for our youth, because I am so proud of him. And he's been nothing but a ride or die for me, and I'm really grateful to serve with him in this capacity.
Absolutely. Glad to have you here. And this thing is acting up on me. So, Councilor, we're going to let you go. And we will see you sometime the week of January 5th. Godspeed and congratulations on is this your first?
This is my first. Yep.
Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. And thank you for spending the time. We went a little bit over time this morning, but thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
You.
So I'm just clicking all the wrong things this morning. Counselor.
Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. It was a great conversation. It was good to hear your questions and Gigi's responses. I really enjoyed it.
So you popped up. You've been in here recently. I will just say that I know that you're focusing on being an at-large counselor. I don't believe you've expressed any interest in the presidency, and just based on your last two sentences, because I had asked the counselor, I said, well, are you willing? And she, shout out to her, because she totally skipped that. Are you willing to share your other 6 votes? And based on your last two sentences, I would presume that you're one of the 6. And so first, I want to ask, and I hope you don't mind, we talk offline. You have a family member, and in this space, we pray and we acknowledge and encourage people. How is your family member doing? Because my mother and the mother's board has been praying. So how is she doing? Give us an update. Let us know how you're doing, and then we'll jump into some of the politics of things.
Well, I really appreciate that. And I think for those who don't know, my mom, most important person in my life, has been battling cancer for the last roughly 3 years. And it's for those who know or who have seen people go battle cancer. It's up and down. 1 month is good, 1 week is good, 1 big week is bad, 1 day, right? Like it goes up and down. And after the election, thank you to everyone who came out and voted for me and supported me, and thank you to the city for giving me another term. I just learned a lot of my mom's health and try to be more in tune. And in a rough stretch right now, and I'm asking residents, I'm asking my family members, my friends, to keep my mom in her prayers. She's having a good week so far right now. And that's all we're hoping for, is just every single day having a better day. Trying to keep her in good spirits. It can be very lonely to battle cancer, and I don't know that from experience, but just being able to see my mom, even having a support system around you, it can feel very, very lonely. So just keeping my mom in my prayers. She's the most important person in my life. Someone who's fought relentlessly to raise her 4 children here in the city of Boston, right? And so, I really appreciate the opportunity, Jimmy, and I appreciate you always, you're saying this right now on your platform, but you send text messages, you check in on me, and I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, sir. And I just want to acknowledge, I joked about him saying something about you all are kind of on a break right now, but I wanted to share a serious note from our former state representative, Carlos Enriquez, who understands he had lost his dad while he was in office, and it's a lot to consider. So 1, thank you for being transparent. And 2, that this is always a space where privately or publicly you can reach out to us, and we will pray and we will support. We're going to do about 5 minutes of politics, and this is the organic space. We're going to come back to some care. You as a Black man, as a caregiver and a man, we're going to talk about that, if you're comfortable, just for a couple of seconds, because I don't want to lose that opportunity for people to see you as a human. At the end of the day, you're a politician, but you're also a person. And so, counselor, you came, you basically, and I'm using this word, declare, whatever, you articulated your support when you said citywide, in the form of, and not verbatim, the presidency of the city council. First, let me ask you, sir, this is your 2nd term. You might not be, and I noticed the age difference when Councilor Zapata was talking. I was like, wow, she said something about the 2000s. And I'm like, oh, that was just yesterday. What if I was to, here's a good one. If I was to ask you the status of things when it comes to the presidency of Boston City Council, to describe the status of things in 1 word, what would you say?
Man, it can be messy. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's a lot because, as you know, multiple people want to be president, right? And it's a vote that's taken internally. So you need the confidence and the trust of your colleagues and you need the majority of your colleagues to support you. And I think right now we're in such an interesting part in this body, because 2 years ago we had 5 new counselors, right? And this time around we have 1 new counselor coming in and joining the body. So there aren't, many like veteran, long-term people who've been there for so long who have not done the president job already. So I think this time around, I think more people considered running for it because I think they felt that they can do the job and that they can get.
Counselor, when I tell you that I got my headphones on and that I said, don't you now listen, you don't want the trolls out there talking about he was yelling at his dog.
I love my dog. Never yelling. He yells. he's very nice. But I think it's just because there's no precedent on how you actually do this, because it's not a public vote, right? As Councilor Coletta Zapata mentioned, everyone takes a different approach, and everyone gathers their support differently. And I think this year there are many people who are who've said that they're going to run, and they've given their pitch and they've reached to our council colleagues. But it's not a fun process. And for me, what I center it around is I'm very, very lucky to have Councilor Ruth Jen as as president in my first term. And she was someone that wasn't perfect, but was someone that I really leaned on her leadership, on her experience. And at least to me, she was always a fair person. And I want to make sure that the next city council president can continue doing that, can unite us as a council. And the reason why I'm supporting Gigi, Councilor Coletta Zapata, is because of again, I met her when she was a staffer. She's always been someone who has been, like you said, a leader, someone who wants to share information, someone who wants to make people better, and someone who wants to collaborate, right? And that means bringing people together. And I think that's what the council needs right now. I think the council needs someone who can bring us together, someone who can not think about themselves and their future political aspirations, but really focus on this council, really care about this council. And I think Gigi brings that. But the process is a messy one, and feelings will get hurt, right? Because only one person will get elected, and that's the tough part of this. But I hope that after this January 5th, whoever the next president is that my goal is that we can work together. That we can have a coalition, at least a real strong 9, to hold the priorities that we want to see play out this year, and push the administration and our mayor to do good work. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I wanted to ask you, Counselor, your past committees were public safety and education. Where with I'll frame it like this. Are those still your areas of passion?
Those, absolutely. I mean, education and public safety.
You know what I'm asking. You know what I'm asking.
And regardless of if those are the committees that I will carry on, those will be 2 pillars that my office will carry. Yeah, that's what I would say. All right. Listen, I think it's been public there, right? I mean, it's no secret. I think, right? If Councilor Coletta Zapata is given the opportunity to be president, she has chosen me and given me the responsibility to be her vice president. And by no means is that the reason why I'm supporting her. And you and I have had off conversations about this. I think for me, it was very important to support someone, again, that cares, that aligns with my values, right? That aligns with what I'm bringing to the council, but also someone who can really bring people together and the council together. And I think I really believe that Councilor Coletta Zapata is that person. It's a person for the job right now.
And I thank you, because some of the first unfortunately, a comment or something would say, "Oh, he's only being vice president because he expressed the support." But you just said that you were supporting her anyway, and
give you more details. I can give you more
no,
details.
no, because as much as I appreciate your transparency, I'm going to always have this lens of quote unquote protection, and I know. I would say you need to pay attention to something that's going on with the MBTA because somebody is in here talking about the ACLU and data sharing, Model Plus civil rights with the license plate reader. Are you familiar with that?
Absolutely. Listen. I hear from the ACLU all the time, and we have a great relationship.
Do you want to address that real quick, sir?
No. I think those are things. I mean, surveillance in the city, falls under my purview as the chair of public safety and criminal justice. This is an area where I'm very transparent in holding hearings, holding the administration accountable. And I think my job and my duty is to get the information out to the people. Whatever systems, whatever surveillance we're doing, my job as chair for me is to make sure the residents know what surveillance we're using, why we're storing it, how we're using it, and getting that information out to the residents, and hearing back from the residents on how they feel about the surveillance, and then being able to talk to my colleagues about whether we should allow this or not in our city.
So this is still a work in progress. You're still what is it? Well, the State House sends it to committee. This is still and what do y'all call it at the city council level? Is it in committee or
in committee?
In committee. Okay, the municipal does it too. And so Laurel Rodden, we did see it, and we don't typically do this, but we're going to just cite one more thing, Counselor, if I can, and I don't usually go with the comments, but we haven't heard a lot of public safety. We haven't heard. I am not aware of an overwhelming response from a cadre, a group, the Black Boston delegation, whatever, about the deaths at Suffolk County House of Correction. Sir, are you public safety, a Black man? Are you being made abreast of what's going on? Are you inquiring yourself? Are you getting any intel? That comes from our former state rep, Counselor Enriquez, and that will be it for me delving. This is why I don't mess with the comments when I have the electeds on, because there's a lot to manage. So, Counselor, please. Suffolk County Corrections.
Heartbreaking what's happening and the stories that we're seeing and the people, ultimately the people that we're losing. I put out a statement a few days after I heard one of the first news, right? It's been multiple for news, right? We need to make sure that when someone's incarcerated, they are friends, they are family members outside who are worried and who care for these people, and we need to make sure that no matter all the individuals, right, but our incarcerated people, that they are still served with dignity and respect, and most importantly, that they are safe. And that's just not the case right now with some of the stories that we're hearing. I have reached out to the Sheriff's Department. I want to do a tour of the facility. I want to get more information about some of the recent deaths that we're learning about. It's unacceptable. It's extremely it's absolutely unacceptable. We need to make sure that all the incarcerated folks are safe, that they're treated with respect. And I think as chair of the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee, that's one of my responsibilities. So, I immediately reached out to the Sheriff's Department. Right now, working on getting a time schedule. But more importantly, we need to find more information about some of these investigations. And it's unacceptable to lose someone in the way that we're losing them. These are fathers, sons, brothers, and sisters. And I grew up in Taylor BHA apartments. A lot of at Mission Hill. And very quickly, I saw on Facebook, right, all of my friends, my childhood friends, who were impacted by this, right, and or who know someone else who's incarcerated and not have to question, their safety. It's unacceptable what's happening. I take this very seriously, and again, right now, because of just how the process is. Where something is scheduled. I'm in the works of getting more information for myself, and as soon as I get get that information, I will be transparent with the public, whether that's through a statement or through a different channel. But I do encourage people to go read the statement that I put out last week.
You're welcome to come here and share whatever findings. And you did address, Donna was asking, do you have a deadline? I would also like to acknowledge that Donna also mentioned that she appreciates the fact that you and both Councilor Zapata responded immediately. Donna Williams Bowen immediately responded to an email that she sent to your office, and she said that about both of you. And so we just wanted to name that as well. So, Councilor, we kind of went off the cuff for a few minutes. We got your thoughts on the City Council presidency. But we started off, and I had to check in on your mom, and I won't let you leave, if you don't mind, with just taking the opportunity to speak to Black men, young men, about the importance of health and the mental part of our health. What is it that you would say, to young men in the city, to older men, to Black and brown men who, are disproportionately impacted by social determinants of health? I kept that as a parking lot in the beginning because I know you can speak to it, and I wanted to allow you to be able to do so. And also, managing during the holidays as men.
Yeah, I think first, right, I think right before on election day, I came onto this to your show, and I committed and pledged that this is, and responded, right, that I think an area where I want to see myself grow, and if given a second term now I've been given, right, is really focusing on our Black community, and especially leading in and building relationships with our Black men here across the city. And I think this is an area where I want to grow in, and I want to make it a focus in my second term. Mental health is, it's used by so many people, right? Mental health this, mental health that, and me being a man, Dominican immigrant, being a city councilor, you experience it. You experience different hurdles, whether right to work, voting, and doing the council vote, right, collaborating with your colleagues and getting things to a good place. Being out in community and not, knowing that you are not, that not everyone is happy with you, and that because you're an elected official, people feel that they can tell you whatever they want to tell you and however they want to tell you.
Being a public figure, period. And I know I gotta reap some things that I told over the years, but
yeah, so it's tough, right? And even my own mental health. Again, then you're talking about family. Right, I was running a campaign, wanting to win, but then also knowing that I had someone and my mother who was battling cancer and who was going through rough times. So there's a lot, right? And this is an area where very early on people will learn about it. We've started in my first term. I started Santana's Youth Force, which is a citywide youth council for our youth, right? And in partnership with them. We're going to be launching, I guess it's an exclusive a little bit here. We're going to be launching in January Santana's Wellness Wave. And we are going to be calling out, local small business owners, trainers, health experts, mental health, therapists, you name it, counselors to come. I'm going to be bringing them all to the table and try to come up with an initiative, an intentional initiative to really promote mental health. To really find initiatives to promote mental health, really reach our youth, and making sure that they're talking about it and they know that there's resources that are to them. But this is something that I'm really excited about building, and it's something that it's extremely important. We are losing lives due to mental health, and I think especially in our Black communities, it's something that we shy away from talking about. And especially if you're a Black man. Right, you're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to deal with all of this stuff, and that's just not. That's never been the reality, right? But right now in 2020, about to be 2026, as a elected leader, I think it's my responsibility to bring those conversations to the table, to have those honest conversations, and more importantly, get these resources out to the people who need them. And so I'm really excited about what we are going to be calling Santana's Wellness Wave. And it's an idea, kind of an idea right now. We're going to bring people to the table who are in this field, you included, and try to find a program and initiative that really hits and hit people, right? And this is something that's personal to me, as I mentioned, but this is something that I hear all the time. I hear all the time from young professionals who are trying to just make it out here in the city of Boston. I hear from middle school and high school students when I go and visit them at their schools and after school program. I hear from my elderly community. Hey, I'm alone. I don't really have anyone. I don't have activities to do, and I'm depressed, right? Like, so all these forms of mental health, I really want to make sure that we're having intentional conversations about it, and we're going to be coming up with an initiative and a program to promote that and alongside with community.
All right. I definitely appreciate that focus, and definitely with the youth, and then hopefully somewhere, and we've talked about this, the priority between it's now 3, you, Councilor Worrell, and now the new counselor from D7. We have 3 men of color, Black men, on the council. And so that I don't think we have had that since we had Chuck, Charles, and Felix. I think, yeah, that was, I don't think, it's usually, I think the most we've had is 3 at one time. Carlos or somebody that's watching or around, correct me if I'm wrong. But Counselor, I wanted to thank you for coming in. I wanted to thank you for being so transparent and public about your support and also where you stand. And I really appreciate the statesman you're becoming. There was a lot of chatter early on when he was running and all this other, he ain't even vote and all this other stuff and not really knowing all the facts as to why. But I've had the opportunity to sit with you privately and also engage with you here publicly. See, this is why I don't mention the comments. Donna, what she say? I'm also mentioning included in the. I'd also mention to include the Pride. Is that the? Are you supporting the senior center? I think
house in Hyde Park. So I think that's
a constituent telling you forgot some of your work.
Listen, we've done a lot of great work, and I didn't really talk about some of the wins that we've been able to have in my first term. I'm really about that. You already know, Jimmy. I'm really about what's next. Right now, we're in the midst of a housing crisis. People can't pay their rent. People are looking at how can I pay rent on January 1st? How can I pay my mortgage on January 1st? Those are the things that I'm focused on right now. And we need more housing. We need housing. We need more investments in public safety. Our youth need more than ever. And that's what I'm bringing into my second term.
Donna said also, just to highlight what you may be forgetting, she said the mental health piece around the work that she was doing with the folks at the senior residency. So
I'll say, Donna, let's connect, Donna. We got some work to do. I know Carlos Enrique was here. I know we've been overdue for a connection and a talk. Again, this is something that I want. This is something I'm going to be extremely intentional about, building relationships with folks who are already doing the work, and how I amplify that work. How can I, support that work and find investments for that work? And I'm committed to that. I hope y'all hold me accountable on that. And I always appreciate you being able to bring me on, and appreciate the opportunity to just share my thoughts.
Counselor, thank you as always. And I think if we're good, we got to set our date for January. Just check in, because we've challenged each other to just sit down. Politics and stuff is going to come up, but just to break bread as 2 brothers. And so we've committed to doing that. And I think that is definitely important. And I got to see a side of this brother that he was just chilling outside of the celebration on election night. But anyway, Counselor, thank you for being here. And we'll talk to you soon. And the platform is available if you need to update us, engage us, get our thoughts and input. We'd be glad to support.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man. hopefully today you all, because this is a very Advent week of civic engagement. Hopefully you got to know Counselor Zapata a little bit, and you heard from Counselor Santana again. We are going to continue the conversation tomorrow with two of the folks that this has kind of came up and really got on my radar, and people started reaching out to me saying, James, two of the folks that presumably to me, you all remember a couple of months ago, I said the next big thing we got to watch is the city council presidency. And presumably to me, by longevity for Councilor Mejia, and then by shepherding the Ways and Means Committee with a very progressive budget that included a lot of diverse resources and support for marginalized communities, for me, it was either Councilor Mejia or Councilor Worrell. Then all of a sudden the declaration came, and then Councilor Mejia, and so it's both of them will be with us tomorrow. Councilor Mejia at 10 a.m. and also Councilor Worrell at 10:30. And then on Wednesday, we're going to speak with former city councilor who is now just known as Tanya Fernandez Anderson. She's going to come in. She's going to give her thoughts about city council presidency. She's going to catch us up on her healing. And she is going to share some other thoughts about some things local around, D7. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up, and we will see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Also, a couple of announcements to please keep in mind. Please don't forget that you have the ability. We talk about equity and Councilor Zapata from East Boston and waterfront work that she mentioned. We're also working with the waterfront. Java with Jimmy and the Coalition for a Resilient and Inclusive Waterfront has published a survey for you to give feedback, suggestions, ideas, any concerns that you may have about Boston's waterfront. You can go to this very short link here, type it in, put on your favorite song, and fill out the survey to give your feedback, suggestions, and ideas about Boston's waterfront. We also wanted to remind you that healthcare, the Mass Health Connector, Connector Care, it's your guide. It enables you to better inform your health, to get health insurance, whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you are just dealing with some sort of transition of your coverage. You can visit masshealthconnector.org or call 1-877-MASS, M-A-Enroll, E-N-R-O-L-L. Please don't negate, or please don't put off getting your health insurance, especially in these times. I believe that is it for our announcements, and we are getting ready to go, and we will be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Shout out to my producer, Sandra Lopez Burke, who is over. IG needs to find a emoji for caviar. Who is over on Instagram. Good to see you there. Please note that our next show on WGBH will not be next Thursday on January 1st. Won't nobody be at the library. We will be back there on January 8th, and we're going to talk about coming from a little bit of the perspective, a new year, a new you. I believe I'm going to ask Coach Meg to join me on GBH. And so we'll keep you abreast about that. But shout out to the whole team over there. I think that is it. Yes, that is it. So we'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Thank all of you for being with us. Please remember, there go my mother. Union Capital, y'all get an hour and a half today. Y'all getting a lot of time this week because we got a whole hour tomorrow. And we'll probably be an hour on Wednesday as well. Oh no, tomorrow is at 10, 10:30, and 12. So Tanya Anderson will be with us for a midday Java at 12 noon. So please plan to join us at 10 a.m., 10:30, and 12 noon. Thanks again, everybody, for being here. And we'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. here in the Java Cafe. Invite others. Misha, you're late. Misha's just coming in, but we're going to get ready to wrap up. Again, happy birthday to my sister. If she was not on in the beginning, Nakia, love you. And we will. Did I say Sandra, I didn't say GBH. Oh, shoot. I got to go back and watch what I said. We'll be at GBH on January 8th. Sandra, I don't know what I said. All right, y'all. See you tomorrow morning.